San Francisco at Washington, though. Look, you've got plenty of star players on the San Francisco offense, and this is about as juicy a matchup as they come. Washington 32nd in points, adjusted points allowed to the running back position, 29th in adjusted fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position. So start all 49ers, sit all Commanders. Should we move on?
I mean, there's probably a little more, slightly more, not a lot more to it. But yeah, I think Brandon Ayuk looked fantastic last week. He's averaging 12.9 yards per target, which is the highest rate for 1,000-yard receiver since 1999. He's getting those downfield shots, and this feels like the matchup where you could be getting more of them. Debo crushes against two high safeties, and since Washington fired their defensive coordinator, they've been playing two high safeties at like one of the highest rates in the league. The one position they're fairly good against is the tight end position. They've allowed the 8th fewest fantasy points to the tight end position. But George Kittle showed last week, 7 for 126, 9.6 PPR points. It's rare that George Kittle has got there without touchdown equity over the last couple of years, but this year he's kind of been doing it and proved me wrong about him. But Washington, they allow fantasy points like no other team in the NFL, really. It's the perfect spot for Brock Purdy to bounce back after being embarrassed, really. And on the Washington side, it's kind of a little more interesting with Jacoby Brissett playing in there. You look at what we saw from Sam Howell over the last few weeks, like 35% completion rate over the last 3 weeks. That's just frankly embarrassing. With Jacoby Brissett, he had a 64% completion rate for the Browns in 2022, 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions in 12 games. He was kind of in that QB 15 to 22 range a lot of the time. And last week, he had 2 drives, and he went 10 of 13 for 100 yards and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin caught like 93 yards across those 2 drives. And he was also tackled at the 1-yard line on another bomb. So like it could have easily been an even bigger game for him. So I don't mind starting Terry McLaurin because the Niners, they do allow the 12th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. I won't be starting Antonio Gibson. He's been held under 38 yards in 3 of the last 4, even with Chris Rodriguez put on injured reserve. No interest in that play. If Brian Robinson comes back, I think that he's kind of interesting because what the Niners have struggled against when it comes to running backs lately have been these bigger, kind of more, power backs. And while Brian Robinson isn't built like Derrick Henry, he has shown that he can get between the tackles and he can make life difficult in the trenches. So I don't mind that one. I'm kind of hoping that he comes up big for one of my best ball teams, which needs a big performance from its running back room.
And if we're looking at this for a DFS perspective, we're obviously potentially heavy stacking 49ers. Is there any potential bring back that you like more than others? Or is it a case of Terry McLaurin is a good value at 5,500?
Yeah, I think Terry McLaurin's the obvious one. I think you can take the dart throw at Jahan Dotson, but the fact is Jahan Dotson just hasn't played well this year.
Before we move on to our next matchup, help us with our goal. Tom and I sat down and we said we want to hit 1,500 subscribers by the end of the season. We are so close. We are so close. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, go ahead, do so. Let's click subscribe right now. We have got so much planned for the off-season. Do it now, and it will help you later.